time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth and Will Pelagic. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
That was a concern, just our overall athletic ability. When you look at the matchup that we have week in and week out, we had to get more athletic. And Coach Dillman and our players, they stayed here in May, made that commitment.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome back into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. It's a Tuesday, right? Yeah, it's Tuesday. It's a Tuesday night edition from downtown Columbia. Good to have you with us as you're headed home, probably stuck in traffic somewhere on I-85 up in the upstate, I-26 in the Midlands area, over in Latta on South Carolina 917. Really backs up there this time of day.
Anywhere in downtown Charleston.
Anywhere in downtown Charleston, 526. Watch yourself as you're heading home. Glad you're with us. Take us with you all the way home. And, of course, don't leave us in the car. It's too hot. There should be a law against leaving Sports Talk in the car on a hot day. You take us inside with us, with you on your cell phone, your laptop, your iPad, your radio in the home, whatever the case may be. Stay with us throughout the 2 hours because we've always got great stuff for you, from recruiting to coverage of USC, Clemson, and others here on Sports Talk every night. Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, Professor Tom Hayes, and Jared Rogers Martin, once again protected behind the bulletproof glass as we come to you from Main Street, downtown Columbia. The phone number is 800-956-7266. If you'd like to chime in, email talkback@sportstalksc.com, on Twitter @SportsTalkSC. Today, USC worked out. In the morning, we had a chance to go over and visit with Eric Wolford, offensive line coach, and several offensive players, including quarterback Jake Bentley, and Willie P., you were there as well. And it seemed like the Gamecocks are talking a very positive game here as we're about to turn that corner in these camps to start getting ready for that season opener.
Well, I think the one thing that is encouraging if you're a Gamecock fan is that the offense seems to be firing on all cylinders, and that includes the offensive line. I think the one thing that we both were taken aback by is how sure of himself new offensive line coach Eric Wolford is, and the fact that not only does he feel he has his starting 5 offensive linemen set, but now that they've focused, or that they've taken the focus off of that, they're focusing on the first men off the bench to be replacing those starting 5 in those situations. We found out about a new starting left tackle in Malik Young. He apparently has beaten out Dennis Daly, at least for the initial part of this camp, and will be the starting left tackle on opening day against NC State and Charlotte. And I find, too, that it seems to me that Jake Bentley is taking more and more of the shouldering of the responsibility of the things like audibles, checking protections, checking things out there on the fly, things that they didn't necessarily trust him to do in his opening season as a starter.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So I think the work they're getting in this camp has been positive to this point. For their sake, they have stayed relatively healthy to right now, and you have to hope for South Carolina's sake that does continue. Of course, you want to see that for all the teams in our state pro, but the optimism is high over there, and I'm starting to sense it too from the fan base that we hear from. And the game against NC State, I like their chances there. I'm sure the folks at NC State and the folks who follow the Wolfpack kind of feel the same way about their team, that they've got a chance to win this game. That's why this will be one of the better. It's not going to be the high-profile sort of game nationally, but in terms of a regional matchup between an SEC, ACC team that you might get in a bowl game, this is going to be a very good season opener.
Oh, yeah, and it's got a good time slot, 3 o'clock, except those who have to play in it out in that sun, because you know it's going to be hot and probably as humid as it is outside today. But, everybody's positive this time of year because they look at the record. We're undefeated, 0-0. And so we're very happy about that. But I think there is a comfort zone among the coaching staff and the players because this is year 2. I think they don't have to think before they react. A lot of times you saw plays last year, guys thinking, what did we do on that audible? And then guys are blowing by them. Now they've got some reaction there, and they know what they're doing here in year 2. And this is going to be interesting to see what eventually, Corn, because you got a good trigger man in your quarterback, Bentley. But when you look at that defense and you see that there's some skinny areas as far as depth is concerned, will that offensive line, if they get a lead, turn into a line that wants to run the ball and run clock? It'll be interesting to see what kind of attitude and what kind of personality this offense takes on.
And make no mistake about it, NC State deservedly a favorite with the way the numbers go, but in this series, they've struggled against South Carolina. The last 3 meetings, NC State hasn't scored an offensive touchdown. And I know that they returned 9 starters offensively, including the majority of their returning receptions and their returning quarterback. But in my mind, I don't know if there's necessarily enough to be scared of with them offensively outside of Jalen Samuels that really makes you, if you're a South Carolina fan, shiver in your pants. I'd be more scared on North Carolina State's side of the fact that they have a defense that is very, very vulnerable against what could be one of the top 2 or 3 offenses in the entire SEC, which I would still say a better conference than the ACC.
I do think you have to respect NC State at quarterback. If I remember correctly, he transferred in with the offensive coordinator. He knows that offense extremely well. They came from somewhere out in the Mountain West. Boise State. So they, those two go hand in hand with one another. Samuel is a very special talent. They move him all over the place. And remember, this is a team that returns practically everybody that almost beat Clemson should have beaten Clemson in Death Valley last season. I mean, come on, it came down to a blown makeable field goal.
Is the kicker returning? Yeah, that might be a plus for South Carolina.
I think he is back. If you can get him in a last-minute kicking situation. But you know what? The Gamecocks, if they need a kick to win at the end, will their kicker be able to come through, because it'll be the first time he's been in that situation in his life. So what do you think? 800-956-7266. Clemson is practicing. They come off around 6:45. Hopefully we'll catch some Dabo Swinney. We will hear from Kelly Bryant tonight as well. Jake Bentley, Eric Wolford. Jim Baxter, old buddy, joins us tonight to talk about a new high school website he's got rolling out. Kerry Tharp from Darlington will be here as well. To the phones we jump here early on, and it is Cockett right here in the capital city. What's up, Cockett?
What's up, man? How you doing?
What's up, Cockett?
How you doing, brother?
Doing good.
Say hello to Will. Don't be rude.
How you doing, Will?
How are you, sir?
Will? He's a new guy. He sounds like he's like to go deer hunting. Got access for a deer hunter.
Get out.
But yeah, I'm sitting here listening to you guys. I see y'all drinking that garlic Kool-Aid.
Let me just tell Will something about Cockett. Cockett's a hater. Go ahead.
Got it.
Yeah, no, I'm not a hater. I'm just a realist. I love my Gamecocks. I'm just realist. I like to live in reality. I'm not superficial when it comes to winning, but it's going to come down to coaching IQ. Like you said, Phil, NC State should have beat Clemson. And it really came down not only just the kicker, but also came down the mistakes the head coach had made. Because not only the kicker missed 2, but the coach had 3 opportunities in the red zone that they should have put Clemson out by more than 12 points in this game. I watched that game real good. So I'm not really impressed with these 2 teams. The only thing that I look at it is that you got more experience from NC State side. You don't really know what you're going to get for Carolina. Our defense is supposed to be a strong side, but we don't know what our offense could do. We got a quarterback. We don't know how he's going to throw the ball, how he's going to look. Is he going to look with confidence, or he going to look real fragile? Is he going to throw out crazy balls?
Did he look fragile last year? When he was 19 years old, starting as a freshman, did he look fragile last year?
Yeah, he looked kind of fragile. He looked like he could drink a cup of tequilas or whatever. But he just don't look good to me. I'm more excited about the defense. But the most important takeaway in this game is for real is special teams. If we could do well on special teams and kicking and controlling possession of the clock, that would really help us a lot. And Will Muschamp needs to come out and not run those same old plays, whatever. Just come out and just let these guys be loose and just have fun.
All right, we got to hit a break here.
Did we not have their head coach on yesterday saying they could score 30 points a game?
This is not the bottom of the hour break, though it sounds like it, and we'll be right back. We are back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com, on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. Happy to see that the Yankees took a 1-0 lead on the Mets last night, so I'm up $1. I figure we'll do $1 a game.
Oh, is that what it is?
I think it's $1 again. $1 a holler. So, that's my holler. You owe me $1. And we'll go for.
I'm kind of sad that my dollar is riding on the gas can Hansel Robles. That's kind of why I'm sad.
Well, but you got a good one going tonight.
Yeah.
He's 8-1 in his last 9 starts. And
yeah.
We've got Sonny Gray, the former Vandy star, who has pitched well in 2 starts for the Yanks. He just has nothing to show for it.
True.
Yeah.
He's had a little tough luck, I would say.
He has indeed. He has indeed. Let's see, a couple of quick things to tell you about. Not a whole lot of major news. Tennessee got some bad news today.
Mm.
They have lost 3 players for the season due to season-ending knee injuries now. Right tackle Chance Hall.
Let's call him ACLU, no?
Yeah, really. I hate to hear this because this is a young man we followed in recruiting and almost went to South Carolina. Freshman offensive tackle Kieran Calvert went down with a knee injury, so he's out for the season. And they lost a wide receiver. Oh, goodness. By the last name of Jones. I cut off the story before I got his first name. See if I can find his first name. Yeah, here it is. I'll tell you in just a second. Jaquez Jones.
Yes, Jaquez Jones.
So he's going to miss the season with knee injury. So that's some tough luck there in Knoxville.
Now, was that Lou Holtz or Steve Spurrier? The first couple of years, they started making all their linemen wear those bulky knee braces during practice. Remember that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you would be, 2 things you would be smart to do in today's football is wear those knee braces and wear those little protective helmets now that they wear instead of the real helmet. They've got those little, I don't know what you call them, the exact name, but little.
The shock protector helmets.
Yeah, I guess so. Whatever it is to help with the contact in practice.
Well, here's
very important.
Here's the one thing that I'm wondering, and this is something that goes back to kind of some of the overtones we've heard from the Gamecocks to start. They keep talking about how physical practice is, and they've said this at Clemson too. I'm wondering how soon we get to a point where it's very, very similar to the NFL, where they almost do not practice contact at all at any level during practice in the National Football League. I'm wondering how quickly do we get to that point in college football? Because I know you want to teach technique and you want to teach about as live as possible, but you also do not want to, number one, risk injury, and number 2, risk long-term injury, especially with the head injuries.
Absolutely. Now, today over at USC, another practice in the books. It was a very warm and humid morning for the Gamecocks. You could see it with the players coming in to be interviewed. Jacob August, for example, they were all just covered in perspiration. But it's that time of year here in South Carolina. There's no way to escape it. You can go out in the morning. You can go out in the evening. The humidity is here. Just a matter of how hot it's going to be. In the next several days will be very, very hot. And the Gamecocks going to have some practices moving forward here in the afternoon and also in the evening to come. Eric Wolford back at USC, a second go-around as the offensive line coach. A lot of people around USC are putting their hopes on Eric Wolford to build a very strong and solid offensive line at South Carolina. It looks like with the first 5 that he has right now, and as you mentioned at the outset, they have he announced today that it will be Malik Young starting on the left side at left tackle going into the season. As things stand right now, Dennis Daly, who we spoke with today, you can tell Dennis is still kind of swimming a little bit mentally.
Yeah.
And he also admitted that he's not in the greatest of shape right now either. So he's got a little bit of work to do. But the other starters of Alan Knott and Corey Helms and Zach Bailey and Donnell Stanley, he feels really solid about them. And then you've got some backups who are showing up. Blake Camper at tackle, Chandler Farrell's the backup center. Though if something happened to Alan Knott, their first move probably would be to move Corey Helms to center, and put somebody else in at guard. Maybe DJ Park would move into that right guard spot. So you have a little bit of flexibility there. But as far as Coach Wolford talking about the offensive line and getting ready for the season, one thing that he was really pleased with was the way his guys went to work in the offseason, took it seriously, and now they're seeing the rewards of that.
I think that Coach Dillman and our players have done a great job this summer of becoming more mobile, more explosive, our ability to change direction. That was a concern, just our overall athletic ability. When you look at the matchup that we have week in and week out, we had to get more athletic. And Coach Dillman and our players, they stayed here in May, made that commitment. So I've seen that already thus far in camp, that we're moving around a lot better.
How much have you noticed the change?
quite a bit. I mean, that's why I obviously recognized it, and those players and Coach Dillman and his staff need to be recognized for that, because, you know, that work they put in that May, June, and July is what we needed to get us up to where we need to be to compete at this level.
How are you going to handle your left tackle situation going into the game in a couple of weeks?
Well, I mean, we're going to probably, start Malik right now at this time. Dennis has been inconsistent, which you would expect from a new player. At times he flashes like the guy that we expect him to be. Like a lot of players, a lot of players flash. And the thing is who can consistently play for 75 snaps, 80 snaps. And when you're going fast and it's tired and it's hot out, those kind of things is who can hone in on the details that you need to play this position, because this is a detail-oriented position.
Would you pick NC State and that defensive line for your first time out, or would you rather be a little bit slower?
No, I mean, you got to line up and play. I mean, those guys have done a good job. I mean, they've done a good job recruiting. They've got a good defensive line. Every pro scout that comes in here talks about all those defensive linemen that they have and those kind of things. And what a great matchup, because really that's what we're going to face when we play in the SEC. It's going to be the same style of front. So, it's going to be just a kind of a preview for what we can expect to come up during the conference game season.
Question for both of you. Do you feel encouraged, discouraged that the projected depth seems to be exactly what we saw coming in from the preseason as far as the projected five that'll be the starters between Young, Stanley, Knott, Helms, and Zach Bailey, left to right across?
Well, I think it's pretty typical because unless you're just that special lineman, you're not ready to play in the SEC on the offensive line really for a couple of years. You know, if they had their choice, for example, Zach Bailey had to play from day one.
Right.
Because they were so poor on the offensive line. Not that he wasn't worthy. He was a very good player. But imagine if he had the luxury of a redshirt year. Now he is a true junior and is probably just now really starting to grow into being an SEC lineman, especially at a right tackle. So they might have signed some good players in this 2017 class, but you can't expect, unless you're just that super player or you just have an absolute complete need, you can't expect a high school player to step in the SEC or the ACC or any of the Power 5 leagues like that and be able to help you right away on the offensive line. Alabama's had a couple of guys do it, but of course those are very special players who are now playing on Sunday. So it really takes a great talent to be able to do that. Great size, talent, and strength. You have to basically be a man-child coming out of high school to be able to step into a college offensive line. So the point is, the guys that are in now, like Eric Douglas, for example, he's being developed. He'll be redshirted, and in a couple of years, he should be a good offensive lineman.
Guys like Jordan Rhodes and Jordan Hardy, guys like that.
Well, Carty's got to get into school. He's still not there yet, so he's not even practicing. So you can forget about him this year. Rhodes they love, but he's not ready to play this year. They'll redshirt him and bring him along. He's got the intangibles, but guys like Trey Deruin, he's got to get developed and help and start to give you a chance. Christian Pellage, I mean, this was a guy that was pretty heavily thought of coming out of high school, and he really hasn't had a chance. He's had some injuries, but he really hasn't stepped up and given them any real help as a depth.
To me, though, it's attitude. How many times we've seen teams thin on the offensive line, but they're winning. Those guys come in, hey, man, we got a chance to win. Those guys come in and they play. There's something about this noggin up here that you got to have it up here before you have it down here.
All right, we'll hit a break. We'll be back here on Sports Talk. Don't go away. Welcome back at Sports Talk here on a Tuesday night from downtown Columbia. Everybody's together once again. Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, Professor Tom Hayes, and it is Jarmart Jared Rogers Martin taking your calls, getting you in touch with us, which you can do very easily. 800-956-7266, 800-956-7266. Want to give a brief mention to our good friend Kevin Cohen here in Columbia at our affiliate The Points. Lost a close member of his family. Want to wish him the very best. Our thoughts and prayers out to Kev Cohen, to him and his family as they go through this tough time, having to deal with the passing of a close relative. 800-956-7266 is the phone number here on Sports Talk. Taking your calls, talking a lot of Gamecocks here right now because they practiced early, and so we're hearing from them. The Tigers are coming off in about 10 minutes and should be getting some stuff in from Clemson. We will hear from Kelly Bryant, some of his thoughts after the scrimmage the other day. We'll bring that to you here on the program. Jim Baxter comes along in the next hour. You remember JB from his high school work with us, his website, scvarsity.com, which he has shut down. He has reopened a new high school website that he'll tell you about that I've looked at, which I think you'll really like. A lot of information, help you keep up with the scores and the schedules and things of that nature. By the way, along those same lines, in this day of age of protests and everything else going on around the world, there is a legitimate protest in South Carolina to get behind. It was started by the Spartanburg Herald-Journal, and they are protesting the use of the name Week Zero by the high school league, and they are refusing to refer to this week as Week Zero. They want it called what it should be, which is Week One, because there's something like over 100 teams playing this week.
Right.
Week Zero used to be just a smattering of games, maybe 10, 15 games tops.
Right.
Now, everybody's playing, and I think the Post and Courier has jumped on board. I saw a tweet from Bob Dalton at the Herald-Journal that the Post and Courier has joined them. And so why not call it Week One? I never have understood the high school league's rationale unless they just want their season to be considered 15 weeks by number, even though it be actually 16 weeks when you start with Week Zero and then you play 15 more weeks through the state championship weekend.
Seems futile, Corn.
Which part?
Futile. The fact that they're fighting over numbers.
Well, I don't know. They just, they're journalists. They're hardcore journalists, and to them, it makes no sense to call a week Zero.
No, they don't even drink Coke Zero.
Yeah.
Hey, I have an unopened Coke Zero in the other room. So there you go.
Which is a lousy drink, by the way, if you ask me. I mean, Diet Coke is okay, but Coke Zero has no taste.
I love Coke Zero.
Well,
Diet Coke tastes like water to me.
See, I like Diet Coke, but I don't like Coke Zero.
So you better off drinking.
Because you're the one who drinks the Dunkin' Donuts that's got 50,000 grams of sugar in it.
Absolutely. And I have the perfect formula for iced coffee from Dunkin' Donuts, which I will be happy to sell to you if you ever decide that you want one. I will not give it to you for free because it's a secret formula, and it's the perfect mixture of flavors.
I don't need type 2 diabetes. I don't need it.
You won't get it from this. At least I hope you won't. All right. Anyway, that's a little behind the scenes battle going. So should we, we start our scoreboards this week. I'll have to consult with David Shelton and see what he thinks.
We need to put out
should we go with Week Zero or should we call it Week One, even though that will go against the grain of the high school league?
Well, you go and call it Week One. I mean, what does ESPN do? They just name stuff, and then they just keep repeating it till it catches on, like walk off.
Week One. This is Week One. We're calling this Week One. Forget about Week Zero. We don't care. By the way, as you're looking ahead to Week One, I was about to say
as your partner in crime on this endeavor, I vote for Week One.
Jarmart says, if Jarmart says Week One, then that's where we should go.
Is it bad that I want to call it Week Zero now just to be a contrarian?
You're just an outsider. You know not of what you speak.
Come on.
There are some really good games in Week One. Dutch Fork and Independence out of Charlotte. Dutch Fork will be visiting Charlotte for that one. That's going to be two power programs. Let's see what else looks good here. Let's see. There's a couple of other big games I wanted to mention. Sumter and Ridgeview. That should be an excellent game. Oh, here it is. Northwestern and South Point. Dandy game up in Rock Hill. We'll talk more about the high school stuff coming up when JB joins us. But week one, I guess we'll fall in line with him as well. Why not?
Week one.
Follow the leader there with the Herald Journal, now the Post and Courier, and now Sports Talk. I hope Bob is listening, and he'll tweet out that Sports Talk is falling in line with the rest of them to call it week one. Now, John March, you're going to have to keep me straight. If we're going to call it week one, you're going to have to remind me not to call it week 0.
I'll do my best Boy Scout swear to you that I'll keep you straight.
Pinky swear?
Right here.
Do a little pinky swear? Okay. Back to the Gamecocks, where they're counting down the weeks to the start of their season. NC State coming up. They'll start to really, after this scrimmage on Saturday, they'll really start to get down to working on the game plan for NC State. In fact, we talked about that with Jake Bentley today after practice, the Gamecock quarterback, and he was asked if they've already started to kind of, peek ahead to the Wolfpack a little bit.
You mentioned the tight ends. Are you seeing more of attached tight ends with the double tight end sets or detached, or is it a mixture of both?
Yeah, just a mixture of both. Just like I said, using different formations and different sets just to get everyone the ball. There's a lot of weapons that we have on offense, and just be able to get in different formations to get in the ball.
How big is of a guy like Hayden when you can get him out split wide like that? He's a tough cover.
Oh yeah, he's so big. He's able to use his body to really shield guys off to get the ball, and then he can run. To be that big and be able to run that fast, he's definitely hard to cover, and that's just like Debo, trying to get him the ball as much as we can.
In your head now, a clock that goes off when you go back to pass, is it a little more patience for you back there? You feel like you've got a little bit more time to deal with the rush and deal with the pass down the field?
Yeah, our interior, pass blocking has been really, really good. I'm not saying our outside hasn't, but you get great defensive ends that can just run around. It's only so long that they can block them for, but they're doing a great job too. Our tackles are really competing with those guys. But we always talk about all the time, the quarterback room, even the best linemen are going to give you, 2.5 seconds probably max. Because it's hard to block them 300-pound jokers for long. So just getting the ball out fast, making quick, fast decisions is what we always talk about, and just getting into our receivers' hands.
Interestingly enough,
did we ever get to the part about NC State?
He said it before that. I think our crack production team made that mistake.
I think this is one of the nights that our crack production team is actually on crack.
Well, what he did say was that they have done a little bit of look ahead as quarterbacks, at least in that room. They don't necessarily expose that part of the game plan to the rest of the team yet. But as quarterbacks, they have to kind of have a step ahead of the rest of the team. And so a lot of the coaching staff is shared with not just Jake Bentley, but Mike Skarnecki and those people who will be in that room and during that game plan about what they will see on defense against NC State, Missouri, Kentucky, just because those three are very much kind of coupled together with those opening games for them, because I think they're of equal importance.
Really impressed with Bentley, his maturity, the leadership that he has taken of this team. And this is one thing you did not hear from Eric Wolford. One of the things that we asked him when it comes to an offensive line, how important is it to have a great quarterback? That was the question, and he expounded on that to include great running backs. And he said a great quarterback and great running backs make an offensive line look better than it is. And he's very excited about having a quarterback like Bentley, because the type of offense they're running and the kind of plays that Kurt Roper is calling, he's only asking the line to pass protect for 2.5 seconds for the most part. Right. The ball's getting out of there.
Right, exactly.
And, Gamecocks gave up 41 sacks last season. I will bet you that if they hold up health-wise, that they'll cut that in half easily.
Exactly.
But the key point is, let's face it, that was year one. Guys back there thinking, reacting. You're not really aggressive. These guys know the plays now. They've been in the system for a year. That's going to help them out. Plus, I think that's the way you have to do against a line like NC State, is to frustrate them about not getting a pass rush because the ball comes out quickly.
All right, 800-956-7266 is the phone number. I think we're all going to go behind the scenes, have a drink with Jared, and we'll be right back.
out.
Welcome back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Best 2 hours of your day right here every night, 6 to 8 from downtown Columbia, the capital city. 800-956-7266, the number. Back to your phone calls we go. Coming up, recruiting update for you. Latest on Josh Vann from his mouth to your ears. We'll share that with you. And some more baseball news, too. Henry and Clinton, you're up next here on Sports Talk. Welcome in. How are you?
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
I'm listening to y'all all the time because I deliver pizza, and matter of fact, I'm doing it now. And but anyway, I wanted to say something real quick. But I haven't heard y'all touch on when you talk about people like Kaepernick and the other one, Marshall Lynch over there, you know, sitting down there in the national anthem. But I played football myself for about 7 or 8 years, all the way up to my senior year, and I also was a member of the National Guard. And when I think about the situation that y'all are always talking about, I think about how I was taught, you know, there's a proper place and a proper time to do all things. And maybe Kaepernick is getting blackballed, but maybe in a way he deserves it. But, you know, I also believe people need a second chance, so I'm going to add that. But the way I look at it, you know, I'm sort of disrespected. I feel like he tried to cure an injustice with another injustice, and that can't be done.
Well, I hear you, and thank you very much for your phone call. Yeah, we have talked about it. It came up earlier this week, or was it the end of last week from another caller? So we did go into it, and we expressed, you know, look, there's no, in my mind, no absolute right or wrong here. It's the individual's opinion. I've shared my opinion. I think all of us have shared our opinions about it. We're not going to rehash this because it's a dead subject for the most part, except for those people who continue to do it. I don't like it, but it happens. As far as Kaepernick and his employment, his future employment in the NFL, you know, you saw where the Ravens signed Thad Lewis to be a backup quarterback. He hadn't played in the league since 2013, so they are really, really bypassing him for whatever reason.
2013 or age 13.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, listen, if you're an owner or a general manager, of course you look for talent, and talent usually wins out. But if there's a lot of baggage coming with that talent, that's why even a guy like Marshawn Lynch, when he decided he wanted to come back, I don't know how many teams wanted him. The Raiders, of course, kind of being that kind of different organization, willing to take him on with his history. That's got to play a role in it when you're trying to get a job. What have you done off the field that can cause me headaches?
He's from that area too. I mean, Marshawn Lynch is from the Bay Area. Anyway,
it just comes down to a simple fact: the negative attention does not outweigh the positive things that he can bring to the field.
And
he just hasn't been a good quarterback.
No,
when was he last a good quarterback?
When they went to the Super Bowl,
which was when?
A couple years ago.
I mean, I
want to say 4 years ago.
How many?
4 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, he's been pretty bad as a quarterback since that time.
Lost his starting job to Blaine Gabbert, and I can tell you how bad he was because he went to my college.
They got and then his team got bad around him. San Francisco had a lot of good guys who they got afraid of that concussion protocol, and they retired very early.
And they fired the wrong coach, Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, they had the falling out with Harbaugh and kind of pushed him out, and he went looking for the Michigan job when it became available.
And then, and then Jim Tom Sula, and then Chip Kelly. Now they're trying to rehash things with old Mr. Shanahan instead.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you for your phone call. And, you know, we get a lot of complaints from people when we dive into political topics here on the show, and I don't blame you. This 2 hours is supposed to be a break from all the other stuff, the serious stuff. This is supposed to be about fun and games. And really, we should be chastised when we get off topic to some degree. Now, sometimes the ugliness of politics jumps into the sports world, and you can't ignore it. I don't like it when that happens. I prefer not to get into it. And we'll try and stay away from that whenever possible. But if you call up, listen, I'm not certainly not. We never tell a caller what you can and cannot talk about as long as you've got an interesting topic to bring up. And yours, sir, was very interesting considering your take and your background. And I understand where you're coming from.
And of course, remember now, the basic tenet of a protest is to make the person watching uncomfortable. So if you feel uncomfortable and complain, remember that's what they want you to do.
All right. Thank you for your call. 800-956-7266, the number. Let's dive into recruiting here on Sports Talk. We begin with Josh Vann of Tucker, Georgia, wide receiver, who's gone back and forth in his mind between USC and Georgia. And for weeks, this has gone on. One time favoring the Gamecocks, another time favoring the Bulldogs. He told us last night that he'll make his announcement either Saturday morning, kicking off at 9 o'clock, by the way, in that, what's it called, the Corey Kell Classic in Atlanta. They're playing this at the new Georgia State football stadium, which is Turner Field, which has been converted. And I saw a picture of it. Really looks nice. Really looks nice. But anyway, he'll either announce after that game or on Monday around 1 o'clock at his school. Last night, he spoke without hesitation in saying that the school he expects to commit to is USC. He said it feels right for him right now, and he's very comfortable with the program. He expects Deebo Samuel to leave after this season for the NFL, so he sees an opportunity. Also excited about the opportunity of playing with Jake Bentley. Will Muschamp and Brian McClendon have been on him very hard. Georgia continues to work him as well. So, again,
it's a crowded wide receiver room, though, at USC. That's the one thing that would concern me. I mean, in fact, you have Shi Smith, you have Ortre Smith. I mean, there's going to be a lot of clamoring for balls.
No, that's not what concerns me. I hear Carolina fans already. That corn blue jinx. He just jinxed us. We won't get him now because you said
drink some rum and sit back and relax. Meantime, there's been no change in the recruiting status of J.C. Horn of Alpharetta, Georgia, over the past couple of months. Since early July, he's had USC, Tennessee, and Alabama deadlocked at the top of his list. He originally had planned to commit July 15th, couldn't do it. The decision will drag on into his season. He plans to visit each of the schools one more time before making the call. Says he gets a text from Muschamp every day and talks with defensive coordinator, secondary coach Travaris Robinson about every 2 days. South Carolina and Tennessee, he said he talks with the head coaches more, Muschamp and Jones. He talks to Saban, he said, from time to time, not as much as the other two. He does talk regularly with the Alabama secondary coach. No leader among the three at this point. He could see a decision coming around the end of September or the middle of the season.
Tennessee's got a pair of very, very good corners who are seniors who are leaving after this year. So there's obviously some good parts of that particular situation. And anytime you get any type of attention from Alabama, you know it's always going to be something that you take at least in consideration.
Quality player, son of Joe Horn.
Yes.
Now, baseball. Clemson has picked up 3 more commitments. In the 2019 class, infielder Reagan Reed of TL Hanna. In the 2020 class, right-hander Cade Austin of Chapin committed to USC in the 2020 class. 2020 class for Clemson, shortstop Kenji Suzuki of Seattle committed to the Tigers, according to EliteSportsAdvising.com. That must be the group that works with him. And apparently a very, very talented player up and coming. There is one more commitment for the Tigers as well in baseball. I have to go look it up for you very quickly, and I'll do that here. It just came down from Wren High School.
The Suzuki kid, is he any kin to the backup catcher with the Braves? He used to play in the American League.
You're talking about Kurt Suzuki.
Kurt Suzuki,
yeah. I do not know that. Also, 2019 left-hander Ryan Ammons of Wren committed to Clemson. So the Tigers piling up the commitments. And I think that does it. I think we mentioned last night that Aaron Neesmith of Portugal will take an official to Florida later this month. All right, there you go with recruiting. Be sure to check it out on the website every day, every night, every morning. No reason not to take a peek wherever you are. Our website, SportsTalkSC.com. Growing by the day in terms of the thousands of people who visit there. We thank you for that. And our Twitter feed at SportsTalkSC. Sign up for that and keep up with us and others that we retweet. And we'll be right back after the top of the hour break. All right, here we go. Coming down in 3, 2, 1. Wide receiver Josh Vann of Tucker, Georgia. Coming down in 3, 2, 1. Wide receiver Josh Vann of Tucker, Georgia, who's gone back and forth between USC and Georgia, says now his mind is pretty much made up. I did? Okay. Wide receiver Josh Vann of Tucker, Georgia, who's gone back and forth between USC and Georgia, says now his mind is. You are. That was going to be one of the best takes ever, and you ruined it.
Maybe I shouldn't feed you Swedish fish before the show anymore.
I'm telling you, this guy he's totally out of touch. Totally out of touch.
Oh, look, it's the Children's World Series.
That's it. At least you're only ruining one show. Let me know when. In 3, 2, 1. Wide receiver Josh Vann of Tucker, Georgia, who's gone back and forth between USC and Georgia, says now he's pretty much made up his mind to go with the Gamecocks. He is looking at announcing Saturday morning after his game. If not then sometime on Monday afternoon. He says he hears a lot from Will Muschamp and USC receivers coach Brian McClendon. Georgia also continues to work him, but he feels like it'll be tough for the Bulldogs to overcome the Gamecocks at this point. Defensive back J.C. Horn of Alpharetta, Georgia, remains stuck on USC, Tennessee, and Alabama. He plans to visit each one more time before his decision, which could come in the early part of September or around the middle of his season. Let's see here. Did I do Aaron Neesmith yesterday? I don't think so. We'll do this. All right, pick it up here in 3, 2, 1. And in basketball, 6'5" Aaron Neesmith of Porter Gaud, who has taken an official to Vanderbilt, plans to visit Florida officially later this month. Phil Kornblut, South Carolina, Radio Network Sports. And in basketball, September or around the middle of his season. And in basketball, 6'5" Aaron Neesmith of 1. Wide receiver Josh Vann. Radio Network Sports. Oh, man, I tell you what. Sir. Taken an official of Vanderbilt, plans to visit Florida officially later this month. I protested on it for 3 years. Florida officially 0-0. Officially. Nothing. Glad to see Bremen has been paying. Later this month. Phil Kornblut, South Carolina. Coach Brian McClendon. Georgia also continues to work him, but he feels like it'll be tough for the Bulldogs to overcome the Gamecocks at this point. But he feels like a lot from Will Muschamp and USC receivers coach Brian McClendon. Receivers coach from Will Muschamp and USC. Georgia also continues.
Throw Kelly in here. Because we have nowhere else to put him.
Week 1 it is. We will call it week 1.
Week the first.
Last year it just got wild when it was week 0, and then with all the hurricanes.
Oh my gosh! Let's hope we don't have that again. We had the hurricane that came through in October, flooded out. There were some teams that didn't play a game for nearly a month. Games.
The one that knocked the signage off of Willie B.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did I just read about Hurricane Matthew?
Well,
Not to be confused with Willie P.
Not to be confused. That's why I like the Willie B and Willie P.
You should have been here for the flood.
Why did you say that?
Do I now?
You should have.
felt like we was a little bit up and down, consistent a little bit, but I felt like we was a little bit up and down, consistent a little bit, but we finished off strong.
It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth and Will Pelagic. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Okay, we're rolling on with Sports Talk on this Tuesday night. Good to have you along with us. Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic.
I'm here hating on the NC State hype. Just hating on it. Everyone's got this hype over NC State. Why do I say so much hype on NC State?
Because they got a lot of people coming back. They've got, according to Muschamp and the Gamecocks, the way they see it, they've got 5 defensive linemen or players up front who will be playing in the NFL one day. They got defensive ends in Chubb and Street, 2 of the best in the country.
I'm cooled on them. I'm a little cool on them.
All right. Cool. By the way, I want to mention here on Sports Talk that our man, Mr. Pelagic, already hitting the streets of Columbia, finding hot babes to go out with him. Huh?
Absolutely. Why not?
He didn't waste any time.
Sure.
Yeah. How's the recruiting going?
I would say we've cast a swath over the entire state, and we were interviewing every day. I'm going
to make a suggestion to you. Your age group, like you tell me, you use these websites to – I found my wife on farmersonly.com, so I suggest you try that. And her cow came with her too. So
is that a fact?
It was a great pairing.
Did she come from a good stock? I would say
she did. Well bred. She was well bred.
And then when you walk in the door tonight, a loaf of bread will be flying in your face.
I do love their commercials. FarmersOnly.com.
I just don't want to get you in any trouble.
Those just seem like really happy, nice people out on the farm.
Don't forget that our toll-free sports line, 800-956-7266, is also a way to get a date with Will Pelagic.
Get out.
So
get out.
For any of the lady callers,
we take females,
the line for that.
And if you're hard up enough to need a date with Will Pelagic, we can make it happen. For that matter, Jarmart's not exactly he's not swimming setting the world on fire when it comes to finding women out there. But
he got a number when I was out with him a couple weeks ago. He got one.
Is that right?
I don't know if she called him back, but
she moved to Cincinnati the next day.
That's right. That's right. She did.
I am not surprised. All right, 800-956-7266. That's our phone number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com, on Twitter @sportstalksc. Coming up in a few minutes, Jim Baxter will join us. We'll talk with him about his new high school website called Carolina Preps, carolinapreps.com. Jim, for many, many years, had the SC Varsity website. Now he has cranked up this and has gone really deep into covering high school football, not only in South Carolina, but in the Southeast. The overall name of his web group is Deep South Football. And then Carolina Preps is the one that is connected to the state of South Carolina. And very, very good stuff on here. If you love high school football, check it out. Already got the schedules for every week of the season. And they do call the first week 0. I guess he's, sticking to the standard line from the high school league. But we are calling it now week 1. We're going along with our brothers and sisters from the Herald Journal and the Post and Courier in refusing to calling it week 0, because there's just so many games and so many good games. Let's call it what it is.
So here's the question: you're gonna have 2 week 1s or 2 week 2s, so you can stay in line.
Well, I mean, it will be confusing, but here it'll be week 1 of the football scoreboard, though the high school league will be calling it week 0. So anyway, that's what we're doing with that. Clemson coming off the practice field. They're doing interviews at this time. We'll hear hopefully from Dabo Swinney later in the program. The other day, after the Tigers had their big first scrimmage of camp, the quarterback, the number 1 guy, Kelly Bryant, talked with the media and kind of gave an overview of his performance that day and how camp has gone for him to this point.
I felt like we was a little bit up and down, consistent a little bit, but, we finished off strong in the short yardage and goal line. Just soon have to look back on the tape and learn from, get better as, as the camp progresses, and, just take one day at a time.
What do you think of yourself personally?
Could have been better in some situations, missed a few throws. Like I said, I just got to go back and watch the tape, just see what I can learn from it as well.
Coaches have really been stressing decision-making. Did you feel like you made the right calls in the decisions today?
Yeah, I feel like I made good decisions today. I feel like I was forcing anything. Really, I don't think I had any bad reads, but like I've been saying, I got to go back and watch and, really go back and look at the little detail, little things, where like ball positions, small things just like that.
How much was it that the offense had some things they needed to clean up, and how much it was the defense was just playing really well?
It's just how it is. Every dog has a day. Defense played real good today. They was out there, those guys, flying around making plays. It's kind of tough at times, but we're going to learn from it. We're going to bounce back, get ready on practice Monday.
Help knowing that you're probably not going to face a better defense when you do get to the season?
Yeah, that definitely helps a lot. Like I said, those guys, experienced back there, they know what they're doing. They make it tough in practice, so, you got to bring it every day. So it also helps as well on with the offense and the chemistry as well.
That's the one thing that I think is the most important point, is the defense that he sees in practice is going to be tougher than any defense he sees, I would say, across the entirety of Clemson's schedule. Maybe Auburn can test him at that much. I don't know if Louisville's going to, and I don't necessarily think that anybody else other than maybe Florida State can really pack the kind of punch that this Clemson group of 11 on defense that he will see in practice.
Yeah, I do not disagree with that. He will not see a better defense than what he sees every day. So he'll be well ready for the Auburn game when that rolls around. Now the Tigers, they lost some really good players off their defense from last year, guys who are now in the NFL, but their offense is going to be pretty good, and their defense will be decent enough against this Clemson offense. We'll see how good this Clemson offense is, but I think this Auburn defense is certainly going to create a test at the very least, if not more than that, for this Clemson offense going into that first big game of the year.
Well, the one thing that they did have with this Clemson defense last year is they had guys who were basically jockeying for position. I mean, yes, you said that they lost great players like the Bullwares and people of that.
No, I was saying the Auburn defense.
Oh, the Auburn defense.
Auburn,
you're right.
Yeah,
You're correct.
Yeah.
So, but the one thing again that the Clemson point is that there were guys who were contributors last year who are still left over outside of those guys who were now in the NFL.
But here's the key to this defense. Here's the test they'll have. They always had the ability to quick strike with number 4 at quarterback.
Right.
And they always played with a lead.
Right.
If you notice the teams that stayed with them, Clemson gave up a bunch of points, including those against Pittsburgh and Louisville. So it'd be interesting to see if this offense can build a lead early so this defense can kind of dictate what the other team's offense is going to do. If not, Clemson is in for a lot of track meets this year.
All right, let's go back to the lines here. Nope, not at this particular time. Okay, Jim Baxter coming up after the break, and we'll hear from him about his new website. Kerry Tharp from Darlington will be here. We're getting closer and closer to the big racing weekend at Darlington. Labor Day weekend is coming up. Let's see, 1, 2, 3 weekends away. Is that
19
right?
days from now, because the football season begins 18 days from now, so 19 days.
So 2 weeks and a half.
Yes.
And a lot of things are happening over at Darlington. We'll find out the latest from KT on that, the preparations for another big throwback weekend at Darlington. It's always a lot of fun. The racing is always good at Darlington. Hope you've gotten your tickets and you're making plans to cap off your holiday weekend by watching your favorite football team in action on Saturday and then going to Darlington on Sunday. The good thing is, as far as USC and Clemson, they're both in the neighborhood. USC is only going to Charlotte, and Clemson will be at home. And they're both playing relatively early. Clemson kicks off at, 12:30?
12 o'clock.
12 o'clock. Gamecocks kick off at 3. So you'll be done at Clemson by the time we kick it off in Charlotte.
You think you want me to do a double dip? Is that what you're asking me?
No. I'm just saying you'll be able to enjoy the South Carolina NC State game after you finish your duties of the Clemson Kent State game. Of course, knowing Dabo, that game will be over about 3:30. He'll start talking about 4:15, and you'll be done around 6.
I did get an invite from some people who I was talking with over the course of this weekend to come stay with them at their Clemson house to gallivant and watch the rest of that game. A little bit.
I really don't care about your personal plans. Let's just stay on the job side of things. I'm not really interested in that.
Why not?
All right, we'll be back. Jim Baxter coming up after the break here on Sports Talk.
Megan Martell.
Back we are, Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Let's welcome in old friend to Sports Talk, Jim Baxter, well known in high school circles around the states, ran SC varsity for many, many years, and has moved on from that. That's been closed up. but we have a new high school sports website to follow, and it looks very, very good. Something Jim is involved with, and he joins us now. How are you, old man?
I'm doing good, man. Love the bumper music. Tom Hayes must have picked that out.
No,
his eclectic taste for music never ceases to amaze me.
It's the one victory Jarmart has had today.
It's the one thing Jarmart's done right. Yes, yes.
Okay, all right.
Well, tell us about it. The new website, CarolinaPreps.com, is the URL, and it looks very good. Lots of information, it appears. Tell us how you got to this particular website and what it covers.
Well, SC Varsity is actually part of this. We started talking last year about, the model for the online sports sites has obviously went to a premium model years ago, and we were with that for a long time. And last year, we decided to try to go back to a free model, Phil, where we could offer all the news and rankings and everything that we were doing free to the public. And make our money if we needed to make money on advertising and other revenue streams, but not to pass that cost on to the readers. And so that came to fruition this last couple of weeks. Started planning for it last year. And what I've done is we've launched DeepSouthFootball.com. It's going to be the mothership, if you will, for a network of Southeastern high school sites. So SC Varsity is part of Deep South Football. Carolina Preps is part of Deep South Football. We've got contracts out on Georgia, Florida, and Virginia sites. And by 2019, we'll have all 12 Southeastern states. But it's a really cool site. It's got a lot of the things that we used to have that were kind of taken away from us by the network that the fans like this interactive scoreboard, schedules, team pages with a history of the team's records and things like that, all built into the website. And we've got the popular message forums as well. So it's all wrapped up in one spot. It is DeepSouthFootball.com, but you can get there with Carolina Preps or with SC Varsity, either one of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, just to be clear, if you type in SC Varsity, which is what I originally did, it took me to CarolinaPreps.com. So that's the primary overriding URL for what you're doing in South Carolina.
Yeah, that will eventually, that URL will actually change to Deep South Football, but Carolina Preps and SCVarsity.com will still point to that, as well as the new sites as we add them. The Florida Preps, Georgia Preps, those sites will also point to Deep South Football.
All right. Now, how much of your material on here will delve into week-by-week game action versus, say, the recruiting side of high school football? What will you offer from those two angles?
Well, we've got, it's going to be probably 70% football during football season. We're going to have all of the game coverages that we've always had. We'll have game of the week previews, our Monday morning quarterback where we review the entire state, region standings, game previews, game of the week, those type players of the week, those type of things. But we will also have the recruiting in there, probably about 25 to 30% during football season. And then once football season's over, of course, that switches into almost 100% recruiting.
Yeah.
And that goes on through the spring until spring football starts back, and then we get back into the high school split again.
Now, this is all, even though it says CarolinaPreps.com, under the banner Deep South Football. So this is all football. You don't venture into basketball or anything else.
We're not doing basketball. We are going to bring wrestling with us. So we do have a wrestling board. We actually own Deep South Wrestling .net, which will be eventually, because it'll have its own landing page, but it's all going to fall under the umbrella of Deep South Football.
I got you. You always had a thing for wrestling, didn't you?
Well, yeah, I was a wrestler, so yeah, I kind of partial to the wrestling.
Well, I'm not talking about mud wrestling. I'm talking about the real wrestling. I know you were a mud wrestler back in the day. Maybe even some Jello wrestling too. I don't know. But, talking about the real grappling.
Yeah, I was a real grappler. I wrestled for Air Force.
I know you did. I know you did.
It was so I kind of have a soft spot for the wrestlers and like for them to have their coverage and everything. And baseball. The Diamond Prospects does such a good job with what they do with baseball. I don't think that there's anything we could do to enhance the coverage they already get. And basketball is just so wide open now with AAU being such a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the large concentration of our time's got to be focused on football. And you know as well as I do, football's all year long.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right, let me ask you this before we let you go. This movement sweeping the state now, Spartanburg Herald Journal, Charleston Post and Courier, Sports Talk, we're all refusing to call the opening week 0. We're calling it week 1. You with us?
I'm with you. You know, I've wanted to call it week 1 for a while, and now that we've got everybody kind of on the same page, I think that we can call it week 1. You know, if you look at our schedules are already built, our weeks were already built in our website. So if you look at it this week, it'll have a 0 when you click on that 0 square. It will show this week's schedule. But I agree with you. This is week 1.
Yeah. Why does the high school league insist on calling it week 0? What was their thinking about that? Do you remember?
Yeah. The reason it was week 0 is because not all of the teams played the same number of games. And so there was not a full slate of schedules that first week of actual play. So they called that week 0. They called week 1 the week that everybody was involved.
Gotcha.
And so week 0 was just kind of like a half schedule, if you will.
Yeah, but now we've got so many games coming up on Friday and some really good games. I mean, there's no reason. This was the rationale.
Right. It's a full week. Exactly. Because with the realignment and the way the playoffs are set up now, everybody starts at the same time. Everybody plays the same number of games. So, you know, you could call this week 1. It should be called week 1.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, good luck on the website, man. It looks great. We're going to use it as a valuable tool as we cover high school football too. You can never get enough information at your fingertips. And we thank you for joining us tonight, and best of luck.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Take care. All right, Jim Baxter, along with a guy named Chris Hughes, who's out of North Carolina. They're heading up this Deep South football, and his website, again, it's carolinapreps.com. Let's go to John in Spartanburg as we continue here on Sports Talk on this Tuesday night. John, how are you? Welcome in.
Doing fine. I wanted to ask what do you guys think about this game that everybody's talking about here Friday night against Somerville versus Spartanburg? Spartanburg will take the trip down. I want to get your opinion on that.
Should be a great one. Now, I know in a scrimmage a couple of weeks ago, Spartanburg got handled by Dutch Fork, but that's no great embarrassment. Dutch Fork is very, very good. David Shelton tells us that, again, Spartanburg will be a good team. They'll have a terrific defense with Coach Miller once again. He's closer to the Somerville side of things, and I'm just, from what he has told me, talking about Somerville, he looks for the green wave. And I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think he has told us that they should be a better team this year, that Joe Call is you kind of got some things going there in Somerville. So this will be a big heavyweight matchup. You know, this used to be a game where it'd be for a state championship, and now we're going to see it here in week 1. So place should be packed. The atmosphere should be fantastic. Coach McKissick should be sitting in the stands. Doc Davis, they should get Doc Davis to come down from Spartan High and let him and Coach McKissick sit in the stands, 2 Hall of Famers who played each other in the state championship games. That'd be kind of neat.
That'll be great, man. It was a great game last year, and it'll be a great one this year.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much. Let me think here now. Was that Doc that coached against Coach McKissick, or was that Fred? There was another coach that got Spartan High to the championship. His name is escaping me, but he was the nicest guy in the world. Coach Fred.
You looking at me?
I can't remember his last name, but he was a very good coach at Spartan High. I'll have to go do some dig. Maybe somebody who was I should have asked the caller. He probably knows who I'm talking about. Coach Fred, really, really nice guy. And took I think he might have been the one that took Spartan High up against Somerville in Columbia in a great matchup with John McKissick.
That's a nice little bus ride down there for Spartanburg to go to Somerville.
Well, I don't know how they, if they split the gate, or I guess last year, Somerville went up there, so they have to make, Spartan High has to make the return trip. That's how it works out, and you keep that money. It's a big gate. Be right back. All right, time to go racing here on Sports Talk as we are racing towards another Bojangles Southern 500. Under 3 weeks until we drop the green flag at the Lady in Black. Carrie Tharp, who I was hovering over Darlington Raceway today in my chopper. I saw Carrie out there with a push broom, getting the dirt and the dust off the track. He wants it all cleaned up and ready to go for the big race in a couple of weeks. How are you, my friend?
Was that you that was flying over turn 2?
That was me.
Thought it might be you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That was me. Yeah.
We thought it was you, but yeah, we're like I said, we're all systems go. We're about 18 days out from having this place inhabited by thousands of fans and NASCAR racing, and things are looking good, and we're getting the track race ready. We're selling tickets. We're getting everything in order for what we believe will be an excellent weekend of NASCAR racing.
Ticket sales humming at this point?
They're doing well, Phil. We've sold, kind of where we were last year on the ticket sale front, and we'll be up one day and back a few on the next, and so. But we feel good about where we are from a ticket sales standpoint. We believe we're going to close strong here. It's kind of interesting in our sport in particular. Fans probably wait until the last 20 to 25 days before they purchase their tickets. And so, that's kind of an interesting phenomenon when it comes to NASCAR.
How much have you been liking, as much as I have, KT, all these paint schemes we have coming out here with some of these throwback color schemes that we're going to see here on Labor Day weekend?
Well, Will, I tell you, they're really cool, and that's part of the weekend that we put together is the throwback weekend. I think there was a couple today with Denny Hamlin and Jimmy Johnson. Yesterday, Danica Patrick had one that honors Robert Yates, who's going to come into the Hall of Fame this year. So it's really kind of neat, and we pretty much leave it wide open for them. We don't really set any parameters. Sometimes they'll try to go inside the window that we're looking at this year is 1985 to 89. Sometimes that doesn't exactly work for their race team, and so if it works best for their sponsor to do something different, to go to a different era, honor a different throwback scheme, we're all for it. And so. Right now, it looks like we're probably going to have about 34, 35 of the 39 or 40 teams participating in the Cup side, and probably have about 15 or 16 of the Xfinity Series teams participating. So that's good numbers on both sides, and I think the fans really get a kick out of it.
You know what surprises me, considering the control that Darlington has and you have over things that happen in this state, I'm a little surprised that you weren't able to get the eclipse to hold up until that Sunday, and we could have the eclipse go right over Darlington Raceway and then drop the flag right after the eclipse is over.
What a phenomenon that would be, Phil. I don't think that we can make that happen, but I will tell you this. Having the eclipse in the state is really cool.
Yes.
I think that. It looks like to me that you guys are going to be right in the throes of it, and I think Darlington's just going to be off center just by a hair. So how cool would it be, really, Toad, when you stop and think about it? Drop the green flag, and about 30 laps in, all of a sudden you have a total eclipse. Of course, we'd have the lights going on, Phil, so it wouldn't really be dark there. But now, if you were racing somewhere in the day, if you were racing, let me think here a second, where it would be a good example. Any facility that didn't have lights. Indianapolis, yeah, great call. So if you were racing in Indianapolis and all of a sudden the eclipse came, you might find out really who the good drivers are there for about 3 minutes.
Well, NASA has deemed Sports Talk the official sports talk show of the eclipse, because we eclipse every other sports talk show in the world.
Okay.
So anyway,
that one take you there,
just
Phil.
got corny.
Now, KT, back to the racing. You got 14 different winners, though I guess Joey Logano's win is still, being held up because of whatever they did.
Right.
Yeah, so 13. So, I mean, we're still looking at the possibility there are enough races left here to where you could get a full 16 qualifiers off wins, could you not?
Well, you could. It'd have to be one different winner for the next 3, and that's possible. I mean, you go to Bristol Saturday night, and certainly you know, Kyle Busch and Keselowski have been very, very strong there over the years. But I tell you, a guy who's really good at Bristol too, and who's been racing good this year is Clint Boyer. So, you know, he could possibly break into the win column. And then you come to Darlington, and you know, we've had some different winners over the years. I mean, Regan Smith won our race here about 5 years ago. And then you go to Richmond to finish up the regular season. And so, you know, all bets are off when you go there. So how cool would it be really if you had 16 different winners, and those drivers that didn't win, you know, they'd say, you know what, better luck next time. So I kind of would like to see that happening. Now, will it happen? You know, maybe not, but there is that possibility.
I'm going to go ahead and predict right now your race winner will be Matt Kenseth. That will be where he gets his first win of the year and gets in the playoff. He's a veteran driver. If I'm not mistaken, he's won. Has he not won at Darlington before?
I believe he's won a cup race here. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know if it's been a Southern 500, but I believe he's won here, Phil. But that is a good pick because, you know, Kenseth's a veteran driver. He's hungry. He's actually almost won here the past 2 or 3 weeks.
Exactly.
Gotten very, very close, and he's probably going to have to win maybe to get into the playoffs. And so, you know, Matt Kenseth, 18 days out, I think it's a good wager for you. In fact, I think you should get on a plane right now, fly to Vegas, and place that bet.
I might just do that, or do it on the internet, just as easy.
Kerry, you guys,
just as easy.
Kerry, you guys, got any secrets you can let us know about if y'all are going to have any kind of special presentation for Lil E when he's there?
Well, we are going to have some things done, Tom, and it's great to hear from you. For that weekend, we kind of teased it the other day on social media. We'll probably have an announcement that comes out tomorrow that we're going to kind of honor both Dale Jr. and Dale Sr. There at the racetrack. We do have some things planned, you know, statewide with him to honor him. You know, what will be his last Cup race at Darlington, and really, you know, also honoring his father. We have a special event on Saturday night at the racetrack. Actually sold out less than 3 days, which will be an evening remembering Dale Earnhardt. So we do have some things that are certainly Earnhardt-centric for the weekend. That
sounds great, and the fans will certainly love that. Now, what are you hearing from Goodyear about the tire they're going to bring you for the race? What does it sound like? Anything similar to what you had last year?
Well, I think it's somewhat similar, Phil, but it's also a little bit different compound. They tire tested here back on July 25th, and they did bring a different tire, and it seemed to be a tire that everyone seemed to be able to race on. It's a little bit more similar tire that you might see at some of the mile-and-a-half race tracks that Goodyear uses, but all in all, I'm told that it's a good tire, it's a safe tire, and it should, you know, it should have some fall off, and we definitely want to see that, particularly in the final stages of the race.
Yeah, looking forward to it, KT. And you enjoy the weekend. You going to Bristol?
No, I'm not, Phil. Certainly been over there many, many times, and I love that place. But we have things to tend to here. You know, that push broom will be on my hand probably on Saturday. You know, and I'll look up in the sky, and if I see that big helicopter up there, I know that's you, Will, and Tom checking on me.
Yeah, I just want to let you know, turn 3, I saw a little bit extra buildup in the corner there, so you might want to get up there and get the marbles out before we go racing.
I'll be on it first thing in the morning there, Mr. Phil.
You got it, sir. We thank you as always.
Okay, good talking to you guys.
Take care. KT, Kerry Tharp from Darlington Raceway, coming up on us quickly. Matt Kenseth, you know, I like to think outside the box.
Bold out of you.
Well, who do you like?
Jimmy Johnson. No.
He hadn't won in a long time,
Neither
Jimmy
has
Johnson.
he.
We haven't called his name in a minute, in a quick minute.
It's going to sound like a
front, a long minute.
It's going to sound like a front run, but I'll go Marty Truex.
Yeah, that's a good call. He's won there a couple of times.
I just want to know when they're going to have that obligatory throwing out of the debris that nobody can see.
Yeah. I tell you what, I don't do this anymore, but I can remember going and standing in the turns outside of what is now turn 3 and 4 and just feeling the rubber coming off the tires, blowing on your face.
I like standing in pit road.
Love that.
I like standing in a pit road.
Well, you can't stand there during the race, though.
Right.
But it is nice to hang around there. All right, we'll be back in just a moment.
Oh, it was wonderful. hot, just the way we wanted it, and a little miserable. So it was great from that standpoint, but and a little miserable.
Thanks again to Kerry Tharp for joining us here on Sports Talk. A reminder, tomorrow night we'll be over in Orangeburg at South Carolina State visiting with Buddy Pugh. They begin classes tomorrow, so they do not have practice. Visit with the coach. Maybe Darius Leonard will join us, the All-American linebacker out of Lakeview. Looking ahead to what should be another good year for the Bulldogs as they compete in the MEAC. I think they open up their season in the SWAC MEAC Challenge.
Unfortunately, they got to go to Southern instead of having the neutral site in Florida like they usually do. I think Buddy's starting good night. I think it's his 16th year.
Been there a while.
SC State.
Been there a while. All right, up to Clemson where the Tigers came off the field about an hour ago, and Dabo Sweeney and company, they have been doing interviews. Here is Dabo, and it's been a hot, sticky day around South Carolina, and they certainly felt that on the practice field up there.
Oh, it was wonderful. It was hot, just the way we wanted it, and a little miserable. So it was great from that standpoint. But I thought this was one of those days where the offense gave in, the defense had to, really, I thought, pushed them around a little bit, and I didn't see the mental toughness that I need to see offensively. Really just enough of it. Spurts here and there, but nowhere near the consistent mental toughness. Thought they gave into it a little bit today, but it was a pretty good finish. We did some competitive 2-minute situations, couple of different situations, touchdown to win it, field goal to win it, and I did think we finished better, but it just took a while for the offense to really get their mind where it needed to be. The flip side of it, I thought the defense competed and pushed through all day.
Do you kind of expect a day like this from the offense with it being hot and you're halfway through camp?
No, I don't expect a day like this. I expect guys to come out and compete to the standard we talk about. That's what we expect. And sometimes if you have maybe a day it's not going so well, I expect somebody to pick it up. And I didn't see either one of them today.
When you've got, for so long you've had the same leadership on the offense, that in a situation like that, you knew who was going to step up and say something. Was it kind of important to see days like this to find out who it is that's going to do that, or who's going to learn that lesson that it needs to happen in the future?
Well, I mean, I don't really, I don't know that it's important to have days like this. I'd much rather not, but I saw a few guys that took it to heart, and we'll see how they respond in the morning. We got a quick turnaround in the morning, and we're gonna run a lot of plays tomorrow. It's gonna be a big situational scrimmage. We're gonna make sure we get enough work on. Sometimes when you go scrimmage, you don't always get enough first down, or enough second and long, or enough short yardage, or whatever, enough red zone inside the 10. So we're gonna really hit enough all the situational work tomorrow that we need, and it's going to be a lot of plays. So we're going to stress them pretty good in the morning. Again, a quick turnaround. So I'm anxious to see how they show back up and compete tomorrow.
That's about as peeved as I've heard Dabo Swinney this fall.
You know why he's peeved? Because he thought if he threw them the carrot of getting practice off, they would come out smoking today, and they didn't do it. So he's,
at least on the offensive side.
So he's angry with himself. So that means he's going to take that anger out on them in the morning.
And they're going to have a quick turnaround, as he said, after practicing in the afternoon. They're going to practice in the morning. That's not going to be easy practice, Phil.
And I think it's kind of a scrimmage type thing tomorrow. Are they doing a scrimmage type thing, or is it just a regular
they
practice?
Weren't, but they will now.
Was he hinting at a scrimmage type thing? Let me check the schedule
might
here.
Might be a pop quiz.
Wednesday, well, it doesn't say. Just interviews after practice, 11:45.
I think it's just going to be a regular scrimmage, but he said he wanted to go more situational. So to me, that sounds like there were some things that they did not see Saturday that they want to at least look at, like you said, down and distance type things. But I think also, again, the defense is always going to be ahead of the offense at this time of the year. That's to be expected, especially because of the fact that with the offense, there's a lot of installation stuff, especially when you're breaking in a new quarterback. A lot of these guys on defense know exactly what the schemes are that they're running. But the one thing that I will say is that, I wouldn't say he was discouraged by the offensive play during the scrimmage Saturday, despite the fact that there was some tough breaks from Kelly Bryant. He had one tip pass go for an interception. That isn't necessarily his fault because they didn't cut the lineman right. After a day like today, you need to at least look in the mirror if you're somebody on that Clemson offense and say, we got to do better, at least on Wednesday.
Well, this is 2 times now. In the last 2 times we've heard from Dabo, right? Saturday after the scrimmage, and today where he has cited that the defense is ahead of the offense by, sounds like, a significant part. Now that really, as you pointed out, offense can be a little bit slower, installation and all that, and factor in that Clemson's defense looks to be so good. That's nothing to be ashamed of. The offense against a weaker defense might do just fine, or against a defense that is good but maybe not as good as Clemson's might still do just fine. But running up against a rock-solid group like the Clemson defense, and they'll see some rock-solid defenses as they get rolling here. I mean, Auburn is going to challenge them defensively, and certainly down the road, Florida State. Virginia Tech may have something for them a little bit defensively. So this offense has got to pick it up.
I mean, think about generationally what you're having to replace at Clemson. You have only 5 starters returning, a lot of that on the line. You're having to replace a generational type quarterback, a generational type running back, and a generational type wide receiver.
And tight end.
And a tight end as well that's in the NFL as well. So from that perspective, you have to replace 4 big key offensive contributors. Number one, that doesn't happen overnight. And 2, any school that has to do that is going to have its lumps early.
Well, the key point is you want to make sure that those younger players don't have their confidence broken. Because if you go against that Clemson defense and practice a lot and you start to fail, then you start to question little things, and you don't.
What do you want to have them do? You want to have them practice against air?
No, you bring the second team out.
I don't know if that necessarily gives them the best look.
Yeah,
that's not what Dabo does. Dabo
is best.
Iron sharpens iron. Iron doesn't get sharpened against concrete.
But I tell you what,
sharpens iron.
If you stroke that iron the wrong way, guess what? One of the pieces of iron cracks.
Clemson basketball team playing in Spain. They've had 2 easy wins, and today they got a win, but it was tight. David Scarra put up a shot, put a putback in, 10.8 seconds left. Dante Grantham blocked a shot with 1.5 seconds left. Clemson, a come-from-behind 82-80 win over the Mataro. You like that?
Look at you.
Mataro All-Stars in Barcelona. Elijah Thomas had 16 and 15. Marquise Reed, 15 points. Grantham and Gabe DeVoe, 11 each and 7 rebounds each. The Tigers 3-0 on this trip to Spain.
Yeah, one more game to go in that 10-day stretch.
And
a little more sightseeing as well.
Yeah.
And this trip will be very important for the guy you mentioned who was in the witness protection program last year, Dante Grantham.
Yeah. Yeah, he really needs to show up. He's had a good trip to this point. And
he had 1 25-point performance, if I remember correctly.
Right,
well.
and with Jerron Blossom game gone now, he has to be the guy on the wing who picks that up. He also has to pick up the senior leadership. And also Elijah Thomas, 15 boards. That's what they need to see from him, because this guy has got skills going to bed. He can run the floor. He can score. They just need him to hit the boards better than he did last year when he was out there. And 15 boards today is quite impressive. So the Tigers 3-0 on their trip to Espanyol. They're going to go see the 1992 Olympic venues tomorrow, and then they'll play their final game of the tour against the Barcelona All-Stars. That is on Thursday night. Let's say Thursday. Thursday, they go to see the Olympic venues, play that game on Thursday night, and then come back home on Friday. USC women's soccer for the SEC this year. The coaches have voted the USC women 3rd in their preseason poll behind Florida and Texas A&M. Missouri is ranked 4th.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad for Brian Blitz's squad.
Yeah, give me a quick rundown of the Missouri women's soccer team.
You know, they used to have a great defensive back named Christian Andrighetto. Fantastic.
That's it?
That's about it.
That's all you know, huh?
Again, much of my Missouri soccer news is trapped in at least 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay. All right. That will do it. Quick update on baseball as we look at the game that matters to us. Scoreless. Yankees and the Mutts in the bottom of the 3rd.
The Metropolitan.
The Red Sox lead St. Louis 1-0. Come on, Cardinals. Give me some help tonight. Indians came through like a champ last night, so I need the Cardinals to give me a little help. That will do it tomorrow night from South Carolina State. Thursday from down in Charleston with the Citadel folks and their big golf bonanza. They have a great time at that thing. Looking forward to that. Thank you, Willie P. and
Thanks,
Pro
sir.
and Jar Martin. All of you. We'll see you tomorrow.